Hey garden folk, so here's another tip because right now it's the middle of July. Yesterday was 112 out here in Phoenix, Arizona. Seems to be a trend, and at nighttime it doesn't really drop too much. At nighttime, what they call the excessive heat warning means that at nighttime the temperature doesn't go below 90. I didn't actually check last night's temperature last night, but didn't seem like it cooled off. So one huge tip is it is now 5:45 in the morning and I'm watering, deep soaking all my plants. So this is what I'm doing every morning. Right now I'm got other jobs to do, so as soon as I get home at 5 in the morning, I'm what's up garden folk? Yep, super early in the morning. So another tip, if you want to beat the heat, beat the sun. Well, if you want to beat the heat, wake up and beat the sun and super soak your plants. So since I'm super soaking them, that's why I'm doing the super light feeding about every 2 weeks. I would not advise it unless you know what you're doing, but it seems to be helping out. The light feeding, the really early morning waterings. It is now 5:45 in the morning, and I'm up and at it. That's how you got to keep things going if you want things alive. Everything is looking very fantastic for me. Just to show you like an example. So since I'm doing so well, and since I'm periodically feeding my plants in the summertime, you get new growth. And here's a good example of what I'm talking about, the dangers. So when you have new growth, it's like a baby. The everything's tender. So well, these are doing good because I have shade cloth. I'm watering early in the morning, but typically out in the desert with exposed plants, you typically don't want to feed that much in the summertime because the new growth will burn. So like I said, unless you kind of know what you're doing or you got some money that you don't mind and losing a plant or two, you can go ahead and feed your plants very lightly. My basil's doing great. I got my the other day I ranted about my vanilla blood orange. It's not doing so great. Well, it's doing good, but it's just not really growing. So I started feeding them. I'm putting down a little bit of blood meal and a little bit of just other things. But everything's looking good. This is my lime quat. Not the best cameraman. This is my lime quat. As you can see, new growth. I have to say the 5 o'clock waterings are really paying off. It's not hot, and just my science, well, not my science, but I think the science behind it is that when it gets really hot, the plants actually aren't really uptaking that water. The roots, especially, I wouldn't say in the ground, but I would mostly say in pots and containers. Those containers get so hot that the roots get hot that I think the plants just kind of do a mild shutdown until things cool back off. So they're not actually drinking any water. So if you're not watering anything until noon when it's super hot, definitely it's going to help out the plant. But I don't know, I just think these 5 o'clock mornings, the plant gets an actual drink of water. The roots aren't hot. Like, got a couple hours to assimilate the water into the plant. Just like, when you go play basketball or something, it's better to just down some water before you start playing instead of going up to the game dehydrated. But I'm still learning. Not everything I say is fact, but definitely the early morning waters are really paying off. Before, I used to be lazy, wake up around 9, 10. I used to think that was early, but no, the early morning waterings are really paying off. Even my peach tree is putting on new growth. And don't take new growth as like a sign of a super good thing. I say that just because of what I said earlier. If you get the new growth and the plant's actually just trying to squeeze out life, if you don't have shade, if you don't position them correctly, the new growth will just get burned. Kind of same thing in dead winter. You don't want to feed super high doses in dead winter because the new growth is going to grow and freeze off. So I'm going to transition to going to the front and watering my roses. So check in a second. All right, so here's my plants before I water them. I'm about to water them. Like I said, my variegated fish pepper. Got a couple of things aren't doing so well. So this is my Mr. Lincoln rose. This is my fragrant plum rose, doing pretty good. But I'm not perfect either, guys. But I got some other roses that aren't really doing so good. And just like I said, I think since they don't have any leaves, I tried to feed them and I think I actually burned them. So what do you mean by burn? So this is kind of, I think, evident of nutrient burn. This is not sunburn. I think this is nutrient burn. I tried to, this one seemed like it burned off the old growth and did put out some new growth. But I definitely want to say this is nutrient burn and not sunburn. These roses that don't have any leaves, that kind of left in the sun, they got sunburned. I tried to feed them to squeeze out life, and I think it backfired on me. So always keeping it honest, always keeping it real. That's how people learn. That's how you teach. Well, just doing what I can. So this is another one, same scenario as the other two that don't have leaves, but I really like this one, Twilight Zone, that I got from Barrages, I think. No, I actually got from my old job, Arcadia Cutter Garden. I did the same thing as the other two, but like I said, if it's going to be squeezing off new growth, I did a good job of watering it, feeding it, and putting it in the shade. So not only is it, like I said, not only is it bad to do full dosage of feeding in the summer, it's mostly the nutrient burn plus the sunburn. So I was able to tuck this in the shade. God, I like this flower. And it didn't die, and it's squeezing out new growth. And just so you guys kind of get a gist of what I got and how well it's doing and the positioning, this is on the north side of the house. The sun is gonna rise right there. You can see behind the clouds and kind of transition this way. So everything on my porch is going to get shade by 11 o'clock. So the roses are doing good. The pepper is doing good. Basil is doing absolutely great. Rosemary's loving me. And I got a bunch of other stuff that I'm like transitioning. This is kind of like my transition area / emergency area because it gets a little bit of sun. And at this part right here is what the shade starts, and just shade throughout the day. And then over here the sun sets. So I threw that out there because the sun has different spectrums. And the morning rising sun, I think is on the blue spectrum, which motivates foliage growth. Sorry if I said that wrong. It encourages leaf growth. And the setting sun is more on the red spectrum, which promotes root and flower production. So just throwing that out there, guys. Yeah, so just some tips on watering in the summertime. The best thing you could do is get up first thing in the morning and just water like a farmer. I mean, yeah, I know my family was a bunch of farmers, and they wake up at 3-4 o'clock and they start getting stuff done. So they say early bird gets the worm. You beat the sun and you get the championship. Over and out, garden folk. Just some tips. So like I said, I wake up really early in the morning and I just give these guys a super deep soak. Try to get the area a little bit humid. It's not hot, so maybe everything can soak up some water and just get ready for the day. But I really do just soak these. And that's main reason why I'm doing a super light feeding, is because if you're super soaking them, if you got good drainage soil, that's also gonna leak out some nutrients in the soil. So you kind of want to throw some stuff back in there. Like I said, I'm still learning and everybody's different. So heed my words with caution, and always less is more. And you don't want to mess up your plants. I mean, nobody's perfect, but nobody wants to kill their plants. So, summary, wake up early, deep soak. If you have the guts, super light feeding. What is a super light feeding? Quarter dosage or less. That means if you're doing a teaspoon per gallon, I did post a video. What I do is I actually make the teaspoon per gallon, and then I pour a quarter worth into another gallon and fill the gallon up with water. Just watch my previous video and it'll show you. But that's kind of what I'm doing. Seems to be working out. Stay tuned for more.